I'm not sure I left off, a lot of this is spiritual warfare. It's spiritual warfare because when we go through these changes, the sun, the moon, etc., these intense magnetic changes, it pulls on the spirit. Things come up. Sometimes people get overtaken by that negativity that they haven't dealt with, and they go crazy. They go off. Others, they understand what's going on, how the tides of energy are moving those emotions and those unresolved thoughts, images, and issues within. And then they realize it's time for the self-healing. And I realize, like, this is the time for me to be working on those things. And so there's a lot of ways in which women could be helped mental health-wise, especially when someone naturally is a spiritual being, you know, by their very nature. To be a spiritual being and to be empathetic and nurtured. You know, there is a certain amount of trauma that animals go through at the vet and at the so-called humane society when they're spayed. There's certain trauma that humans go through when they're circumcised. And so there's a certain level of that emotional circumcision that's happening to Western women, and they're hurting. It's not in their nature to be sent to the front lines of the military. It's not in our nature to ultimately be competing for dollars in the digital forest. Real equality would go deeper, and is something deeper. This game of musical chairs, there's only going to be so many jobs, and what jobs there are, there's going to be this stiff competition, and that's equality. And while that happens, and people are having their equality, and they're having their race, they're going ahead and they're doing their thing. What about those people that didn't get the degrees for whatever reason? If finances were a reason, mental ability was a reason. So we do have a certain level of social Darwinism with regards to serving the state, being obedient, and doing those things that get someone in a particular field. And someone may need to be in a particular field to be able to even afford anywhere in a certain region. So this goes deeper. How deep do you want to go with this? Do you recall the party members versus the non-party member theme in 1984? Because that's what we have. We have a certain level of gender warfare, but the gender warfare, the stage-managed gender war, because no one's really on top but the true masters of this universe, the archons. But see, they can play off the gender war as they build up that structure that is enslaving them both at the same time, as they're distracted by their competitive ways, their egoic ways, their narcissistic ways, being led on by the media. Right? The same thing goes for racial tensions, by the way. Racism, so we can go racism, classism, gender warfare, all the isms. I also have been talking about anti-themism. You know, instead of supposedly being white supremacy, anti-themism is all these different people that have been turned against the people of the Middle East. As the Middle East have been made, the people there, the new boogeyman, especially since the 1990s, climaxing with 9/11, because remember, it started with the 80s and 90s as America's recouping after Vietnam, had some time to rest its biceps and triceps, had some time to hit the bench for a little bit, experiment with new, different kinds of steroids as the bodybuilder fad went on, and then America rested and built up, and the Hulkamania fade, build, and the Delta Force and the Chuck Norris and the Sylvester Stallone movies, and then everything just kept building and building and building. And by the time we hit the 1990s, here's Arnold Schwarzenegger with True Lies, with predictive programming, ISIS-wise. September 11th, 2001, I was 21. My life was changed forever from 9/11 by being put into a box by some people stuck in the illusions of separation. 9/11 changed my life forever in different ways than the average American or European. Right? Changed my life in different ways. Where did this whole thing start? I can tell you that that I know from the path that I've been on that the world hasn't been one that has been all that supportive of going my own way and thinking outside the box and sharing those outside the box ideas with others. And so it's an ongoing story how I survive, but in some ways it's more socially acceptable for me to be doing what I'm doing than a young female who might even have to go through even more hoops. Who knows? In some ways, I think that there is more of a market for the female truth teller. Unfortunately, it's often co-opted by bigger channels and people that are doing what they're doing solely for money. So they will use sex to sell, even if they're putting a little bit of truth out there. It's ultimately doing the same thing with the info babes. I think that a truly evolved world would have more women more involved in speaking their truth than being involved in porn. You know, I think that it's sad that we can say that in some cases it's easier to find a prostitute than genuine therapy from a woman. It's about the incentive that they've created, the disincentive, and the disconnect with nature, with the intuitive nature within, where people really know what's right and know what's wrong. And a lot of people continuing to serve this system and the dollar system and just gaining materialism without really looking deeper at what we're doing here. I don't think that's in line with changing things. I think that's just doing what we've always done. You know, and I'm looking to see something way more radical. But see, I don't think that it is about us in our lifetime seeing the whole world change, but changing ourselves just to the point to where we earn the right to exit this type of a world. And women, there's a lot that they can do to contribute. I've always said that women could change the world overnight if they wanted to. If they choose to move forward with a plan that would include just simply no longer supporting those dominator males that are at the core of holding up the system and structure. To have, you know, these collective as well as individual consciousness shifts with the types of company that they're choosing. And it's really mathematics. 2 + 2 = 4 doesn't equal 5.78. There's other things they can also bring. They can talk to people in their spiritual circles about the unnecessary loss of life in the Middle East. And they can talk about it from a perspective and get people thinking about what's really going on instead of just simply shrugging their shoulders and going, it's just the natural way. The earth is just going through its growing pains. The earth is just going through its growing pains. And that's pretty much where they take it. And it's an insult. It's an insult to those people that are being removed off the earth. It's an insult to those people that are of the DNA of those people that are being removed off the earth, because their lives aren't over. Our lives aren't over. We haven't gone to the 2020s yet. We haven't gotten to the 2030s yet. And there's a part of me that wants to protect women in general, because I see danger coming to our society and a lot of human trafficking. So I believe that the role that I'm playing needs to be played, even if there's not a lot of support. I think there are good women out there and good people out there. We should try not to stereotype everyone. We should encourage those beautiful, intelligent, young people that are out there, male or female, beautiful or not, but those people that are younger, to follow their dreams and to not let this world destroy them and take away their true beauty.